Paul's letter to the Colossians is a rich letter and addresses the challenges the church in Colossae faced, particularly with regard to Jewish legalism from the Pharisees or today's pastors and the influence of pagan cult practices. At the heart of Paul's letter is his desire to ground the Colossian Christians in the supremacy and sufficiency of Christ, countering both Jewish and pagan influences that could distort their faith. Paul's letters remind us that many early believers were still observing the Torah, including the feast days and Sabbaths, yet they faced the constant challenge of resisting the pull back into their former pagan ways. His writings encourage them to remain faithful to Christ, recognizing the fulfillment of the sacrificial sin law in him, while urging them not to compromise their faith by blending it with the surrounding pagan practices. Paul, throughout his letters, often refers back to the Torah, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, and how its laws and commands were intended to guide the all people toward God. In Colossians chapter 2 verses 16 to 17, Paul writes, "Therefore do not let anyone judge you by what you eat or drink, or with regard to a religious festival, a new moon celebration, or a Sabbath day. These are a shadow of the things that were to come. The reality, however, is found in Christ." In Colossians chapter 2 verse 16, when Paul says, "Therefore do not let anyone judge you by what you eat or drink, or with regard to a religious festival, a new moon celebration, or a Sabbath day," he is encouraging the believers not to feel condemned for observing customs that reflect their worship of the one true God. These practices, rooted in the Torah, set them apart from the surrounding pagan culture, which worshipped many gods and followed different rituals. Paul is reassuring them that they should not allow those outside their faith to make them feel guilty or judged for maintaining these observances, as they are part of their devotion to God, who is fully revealed in Christ. Colossae, like many other cities in the Greco-Roman world, was deeply influenced by pagan religions and philosophical thought. These belief systems often included the worship of various gods, the practice of mysticism, and the pursuit of secret knowledge. This is seen in Paul's warnings against hollow and deceptive philosophy, Colossians chapter 2 verse 8, which likely refers to pagan or syncretistic teachings that sought to combine elements of Christianity with non-Christian religious or mystical beliefs. Today believers mixing Easter and Christmas along with Sunday pagan worship today as an example. In Colossians chapter 2 verses 18 to 19, Paul continues, "Do not let anyone who delights in false humility and the worship of angels disqualify you. Such a person also goes into great detail about what they have seen. They are puffed up with idle notions by their unspiritual mind. They have lost connection with the head, from whom the whole body, supported and held together by its ligaments and sinews, grows as God causes it to grow." Here, Paul is likely referring to certain mystical practices, possibly involving angel worship or a form of Gnosticism, which emphasized secret spiritual knowledge. These cultic practices were common in the city and could lure new Christians away from the simplicity and sufficiency of their faith in Christ. Paul stresses that such teachings are a distraction and can cause believers to lose connection with Christ, who is the head of the church. In Colossians chapter 2 verse 16, Paul is doing more than merely defending believers' freedom to observe Torah practices. He is urging them to embrace these customs as a way to resist the pagan culture surrounding them. Paul emphasizes that Jesus, who kept the Torah perfectly and was deeply devoted to it, is the gateway to heaven. As the ultimate example of holiness, Jesus modeled the way of life that believers should aspire to follow. Paul is encouraging the Colossians to desire holiness as Jesus did, by maintaining their devotion to God through these practices, while rejecting the influence of the pagan world around them. Until the next post, shalom. Enjoy the truth with slides providing Jesus never kept pagan holidays like Easter or Christmas but kept the biblical feasts.